Hi, it's Russ from Pro Tools Expert, and now that people are getting their downloads for our instrument expansion pack and everything seems to be working much smoother than it was, I think it's probably an appropriate time to be able to start talking a little more in detail about the new Air Instrument Expansion Pack. And in this video, I want to show you the new stuff that it comes with. Now, it was 5 instruments, but now it's 2 additional instruments as well. It now comes with Loom, which is an additive synthesizer. And it also comes with Vacuum Pro as part of the same package. So the first thing I'm going to look at is Hybrid. Now, Hybrid has 3 really main new features. The first one is that we now have this preset browser up here, and we can go through our presets very quickly, and we can also step through them as well there. We can go through them and just go through each one of them and try them out. Other 2 features are it has a pump LFO now, which means that we can use a pumper effect on sounds. Now in dance music, that's really very popular. So we can get this pumper from the LFO and send it anywhere. So we could, for example, at the moment, I could put it on something like this synth sound. I could go to the mod settings here in amplifier, and I could go here, and I could go to pumper, and I can add some in here, and just push that in. And the more I put in, obviously, or we could add that to the cutoff frequency instead. Put a pump here. So we can assign that. It's just another modulation source. We can assign that anywhere we like. So that's the second new feature in Hybrid. The third new feature is now there's 2 filters that we can assign, and we can assign those filters either route them left and right, or we can assign them serial or parallel, or on an oscillator basis, which means that now we can do some really cool stuff with the filtering. So at the moment, this has a filter there. So there's a low pass. And at the moment, this is going left and right routing, so we could go to instead parallel routing. So we can choose this one, put a high pass in as well, or a band pass. And do some really cool stuff with it. If that was in serial then, obviously most of it's lost now because it's got both high and low pass working. And do some cool stuff so we could modulate, for example, that filter now with using LFO 1 or something. So that's very nice. So 3 features in Hybrid which are really useful, especially for dance work, and that's to say the 2 filters, the new pumper setting, and the new preset browser that we now have. Moving on, if we go to structure is mainly library changes. There are some minor changes in terms of browser stuff, but really the main change within here is that we now have within the library, if you go to your Structure 2 factory libraries, you will see now a new set of pop, brass, and wood. And they've also done some minor fixes as well. One of them was the one where it used to hang when it was looking for libraries, because that was if you had stuff attached to networks. Now that's gone. So there's a great new library in there that's very nice and has lots of different features for doing brass and for doing wind and stuff as well. So take a look in the 17 pop, brass and woods in there as well. And of course, all of them are now 64 bits, so we'll take advantage of much better memory. Strike 2's probably got the biggest changes. So the GUI's completely changed. We have different ways we can now look through the browser. Here we have a user and preset settings. We have styles, kits and mixes all up here. We can order those in BPM listing or like that, so we can get them all in speed. Or we can have them into A to Z. We can go back to folder if we want to instead. The editor has changed somewhat, and that has now more capacity to do some really cool editing of the patches that you have in there, the patterns, sorry, that you have in there. And also then we have a completely different export option now. We have an audio export, 1, 2, or 4 bars. You can create very quick loops and drag and drop them into Pro Tools. And then we have MIDI export, which offers us full and GM. And I'm pleased to report now that the issue of the drift when you copied these before, somebody asked me this question in an email last night, the drift is now fixed as well. So if you drag and drop this stuff into Pro Tools, or if you drag and drop it out to the desktop as a GM, it will then import into something like Logic and play in time and not have the tempo drift that some people reported in earlier versions. So more kits and a much better GUI and much better to get around. And as I say, these export options now are really nice, and some really great kits in there, the kits that have been recorded at Blackbird Studios. And coming out now to the next of the originals, Transfuser has a huge new library, but it also has some additional new features as well. So if I clear that out back to just factory default, big library you can check out, a new way of going through the presets as well. Some nice new stuff here in the menus at the top when you're sorting through stuff. But you now have a analog synth built in, and I'll just play that for you. It's got this lovely synth now. If you come down, it's got full capacity in the synth, and of course you can still play that synth as well. So if you come to the sequencer and go down here, we can go to play notes and play those notes in there. But there's a really nice set of presets already in there, so strings. Things like you've got quad mode where you can detune. What we also have as well now is there's also one electric, and we can nice electric pianos. We can also have as well is we now have a chord system built in, so we can bring that up. Let's just delete that back out and bring in the chords, and now we have a chord system that plays chords. Let's just put this into play mode again down here, and let's load a chord sequence in. For a moment, we can have detecting chords, we can create our chords, and we can detect and correct. So when you're playing your chords, it can force it to scale, and we get to detect and correct. And now it'll play, that's in C major. Now I played a sharp there. It will only play stuff in that key, the scale that you choose. So that's a nice feature that's now built in. And then, of course, you can create your own parts in there, and there's different chords that are already built in if we play a few. What's nice as well about both the analog and the electric piano type one is we have this very simple change system here. So you don't have to go into all the, you can go very in depth in the synth parts, but you can actually just come in and So a fully editable chord sequencer and a fully editable analog and electric sound generator. So there's some really nice features there now within Transfuser as well. And there's some great stuff under the hood of Transfuser. You can use as effects, things like the pumper effect and the rhythmic effects you can use on synths. So don't forget to use Transfuser as a plugin as well as an instrument. So that's Transfuser. Velvet is always a favorite for me. And if we just come onto Velvet. And in Velvet now, we have a whole new set of pianettes as well. And we can step through those. So 5 pianos now. We've got the Mark 1, the Mark 2, the SC73, the AC200 and the pianette. And don't forget, of course, as well, you've got the mechanics here, so you can add DX7 type sounds in there as well. So it's well worth exploring that within Velvet. So that's Hybrid, Strike, Transfuser, Velvet and Structure. And the 2 new ones that have come with it now are Vacuum Pro, which is a monster synth and has both huge power but simplicity of use as well. We have these things called smart knobs where we can just go in and do very quick editing like I just showed you in Transfuser. That's appearing a lot more in the Air stuff, and it's very good for those of you that aren't really au fait with using synthesis and you just want to change the sound. You think, I want to make it a bit harsher or a bit softer, and you can do that using the smart stuff. So there's, again, a huge amount of presets built in there. So let me just give you an idea of some of the sounds. And this is where the smart knob comes in, because if you're not really sure about how to do synthesis, you can come in here and you want to make it a bit punchier, a bit softer. A bit thinner, a bit harder. Much more pure, that sound. When you like what you've got, you just hit the apply button and you've got a new sound. You can actually come out of that and now set that for you. So it's worth exploring that huge amounts of presets, and it's polyphonic. So this is a step up from Vacuum, which was basically a mono synth. The final one is Loom. Now, Loom is additive synthesis, and a lot of people find additive synthesis really hard to use. The great thing about Loom is that it actually allows you to use additive synthesis, but it's done it in an easy way. It has a very simple editing option here, and it also has a very complex one. It has a lot of great presets. If I just go through some of the presets, so here's some bass. So if we come in here, and again, that kind of feature of making things much easier to use. But don't let that deceive you in terms of sound. If we go through some of the sounds, you got those kind of sounds, and that's because we have this morphing option. You see this morphing, this is now running along, and we've had it programmed so that it's changing things on the fly. And again, a huge amount of presets, go to atmospheres. Let's see what we got here. See some really great stuff you could do. And again here. And the more conventional stuff, we go to pads. So there we are, Structure, Hybrid, Strike, Vacuum Pro, Transfuser, Velvet and Loom. There's an upgrade price of, I think, $99. The full package is $299. It's excellent value for money. It really puts Air on the map again. It's Pro Tools 11 compatible. I would say if you can get the upgrade price, $99 is a no-brainer, but at $299, it's still a no-brainer. It's a fantastic package and well worth investing in. And when you add them all together, you can really create some great stuff. Here's just something I knocked up yesterday, just using the 7 instruments. I'm using Structure to do some synth parts, Hybrid to do a pad part, Strike to do some electronic drums, which is great for as well. Don't forget that it's not just acoustic drums, but also electronic drums. Vacuum Pro is doing a kick drum. Got Transfuser playing some loops, Velvet playing an electric piano, of course, and then Loom doing the synth bass. And added together, you can get some pretty good sounds. That's Velvet and Strike. Structure's coming in next. Here comes Hybrid with some pumper action. And that kick is actually from Vacuum Pro. Transfuser comes in now. And I'm also using Transfuser on the main output. That's doing some additional pumping and some tube drive. So as you can see, it's a very, very big package of sounds. So I'll leave you to listen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.